Hello, hello. So mic check.
Can you hear
Hey,
me?
hey, Simon. Yep. Yeah, familiar cow here. Tyler from the Nine Realms team. If anyone else wants to come up and join, Orion, Chad, or anyone else, we're gonna do some updates for a couple minutes. So we'll give some updates on different network things that are going on, and then we'll do an intro for Simon because this is his first time on Spaces. So we'll take some time to do a Q&A at the end after we go through some THORChain updates. How you doing, Chad?
So, Kyle, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Orion,
Wait, Ryan, join us. Oh, fantastic.
think he's up here too. All good.
How's it going, bud? Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Cool. All right. So we wrapped up planning, and we're just about ready to put version 3.5 onto StageNet. So let's go through some of the things that's coming out in 3.5. Most notably, it's TCY. So Chad, when is this stuff being released to StageNet? I think it's being cut today or tomorrow to get to StageNet, and then some period of testing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be cut either today or tomorrow. We'll probably have a bacon stage net for a few days, up to a week, I would think. I guess for just testing and stage net and validation.
Cool. Yeah. So there's a baking period that's going to go into place, and obviously we want to test things like TCY claims and the flow there. We have the Ruji team spinning up a front end that's going to go live, and that'll be hosted right on THORChain.org. So it'll be right in a trusted place that's really easy to get to, be able to access it from all your different wallets, and that's where you'll be able to claim your TCY, stake your TCY, so that we're aiming to for everything to be available before the end of the month. So the initial testing will still happen this week. After that, things will get rolled out to mainnet with a 3.5 update happening in about a week. And then after it's live, then the front ends go live, and people can start claiming their TCY and getting their yields. So that's the path towards, the unwind of THORFi, and finally moving on to the next chapter here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to give a quick update on the very short term here. So I'm writing up a TCY StageNet testing plan right now, and I'll work with the Maya guys to get that solidified. So as soon as it's live on StageNet, we'll be able to put it through its paces, make sure that UI devs also have the capacity to test against StageNet if they need to, and then make sure that we're covering all of the edge cases, and then we'll be really confident in a mainnet launch. The TCY launch for me, just like personally, is a really important kind of milestone because to just kind of put a bow on the recent events with the whole THORFi unwind. So excited to get this tested and make sure that it goes smoothly.
Yeah, I was just going to say special thanks to the Maya team for all the work on this. Much appreciated by me and I'm sure the entire community.
Yep, 100%. So besides TCY, there's a couple other things that are upcoming. So we have XRP, which is on StageNet. It's being tested. So that's Ripple, and that is the next chain that is likely to go live. It's basically ready to go as far as I'm aware. So there's only one more little thing that we need to do to just tweak the economic security a little bit to just add some space for Ruji and the new chains. But I actually think we're above the security budget right now. But it's still something we need to do. But next chain should be Ripple, which is basically ready to go. And obviously work on other chains is still ongoing. There's a bunch of chains being worked on. EDDSA, which would include like Solana support, is still in the pipe. That's coming just a little bit later than XRP and TCY, which have been prioritized. And there's other chains that are being worked on too. Which other chains are in the pipeline? I think we have Tron, Cardano.
I think there's Tron, Cardano, Solana are the quick ones hopefully, and then and then we've got more on the horizon from there.
Yep. So we're going to get XRP out first, and all this will be after TCY launch. So everything's getting queued up right now for like a big burst of features, but we didn't want to push anything and have anything take priority over TCY since that's one of the most important things that's going on right now. So it's all just on the back burner, but we have XRP ready to go. Essentially, it's on standby. And then I guess the last thing of note is just the Ruji merge is ongoing, so their tokens are getting imported to THORChain right now. So if you're a holder of any of any of those tokens, you can merge into native assets on THORChain right now. And then I believe they're also getting all their contracts spun up to get ready for their actual contract launch, which should be happening. Probably is that 3.5 or 3.6? So is it this next version or the next one? I'm not 100% sure.
For what thing?
Sorry, for the Ruji contracts should be going live pretty soon.
Yeah, I think it's actually ready in 3.5. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, that's going into StageNet ASAP, and then we get it live on mainnet, and then their contracts are live for the first apps. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's Paul.
Cool.
I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, me too. I think it's good. I think it'll be fun and definitely a breath of fresh air into into some new products and new apps, which is something that we always like to see.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me I'm excited about is it's hopefully going to produce more revenue, more income for the protocol. So and that's eventually fees that include nodes and also even includes PTY as well.
Yeah, anything else of note that you guys want to talk about protocol updates? And then after we get through any protocol stuff, I'd love to introduce Simon and go on to that.
Yeah, one more thing I'd bring up, I think is really nice in 3.5, worth talking about briefly at least, is something called the Enshrined Bifrost, which is something that the Strange Web teams are working on for a while. And without going into too much technical complexity and detail, but it's basically cutting down by orders of magnitude, maybe 100x, 200x less transactions for node operators to make observations of external blockchains. So it's really going to reduce the load on the chain and create more space in some sense for other transactions, whether that be Ruji or something else.
Right. So that also goes into cutting down the block times, right? So right now, I think there's a PR up to get block times down to 2 seconds, and Strangelove is taking the lead on that. And once these things are landed, then we can start getting the block times down. So this is just dramatically cut down on chain bloat, which makes it so we can start dropping the block times, get them down to 2 seconds and below, and which will just make execution faster. It'll make arbs faster. It'll make swaps faster. Overall, faster block times is good for the chain, good for all the users, good for swappers. They're just good all around. Just need nodes to actually be able to keep up. So when they're observing 200 transactions per swap that comes through on THORChain, it scales up pretty quick, but they should really cut down on bloat, which will help with that problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I would be cognizant of is that by having a faster block time, streaming swaps happen faster because block times right now are about 6 seconds ish. So going down to 2 seconds, gives you 3 times faster block times, which means streaming swaps will execute 3 times faster, which is good in one sense, but also bad in another sense of that you need to make sure that there's liquidity on the other side. Arbs are there to maintain those streaming swaps. So something to be conscious of in the near future.
Right. I mean, it's a good problem to have. And also, I saw that you raised a vote for reducing some of the confirmation times for Bitcoin. And I think we should look at some other chains too, although it's hard to get really solid research on what exactly are safe values for some of these things. But just overall, it's the right first step to just increasing swap UX, making swap UX better. And any problems that come out of that are good problems to solve. It just means that we're executing swaps too fast and need to figure out how to just make them execute better if there start to be problems with that. But I don't think we foresee any problems with that right now. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it would only, maybe only for extremely large swaps where you need like a really big ARB in order to do something. But I don't think it'll be too dramatic of a change.
Right, right. Well, you're right about the reducing the comp counts for BDC from 3 comps to 2, which is following standard with what Binance and Coinbase does, from my understanding. Uh, and since they're much larger than us and than volume, then they have more security risk to be considered of. So you can make an argument we're kind of over secure now by following their footsteps because they're much larger in a sense. But we can look at things later on. I know that like Shapeshift only had one comp for Bitcoin for almost their entire life, and never had an issue, even at one comp, and that was when Bitcoin was significantly less secure than it is today. So there's an argument we could make. We could go smaller, but for right now, I started that vote for 2 comps on the Bitcoin just to help ARBs get their capital faster into the protocol if they needed to.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Yeah. So I think those are the major things that are all being worked on. So we'll have version 3.5 out next week. It's going on to StageNet this week, and then TCY and XRP, and then we can finally move on to the next stages of the roadmap. So if you need to take a look at the roadmap, all of it's always published in the quarterly reports. So there's a roadmap at the end of the Q1 report in the THORChain Medium. So you can go there and just see what is on the roadmap and things that the devs are going to be working on for the next couple months.
Yeah, one thing that just kind of like draw a little attention to is that like we've had our share of like dramas in the past, but like people are still here, people are still shipping, we still have a roadmap, we still have like big things planned. Like we kind of take the hits and keep moving, and it's something that this community does. It's particularly well.
Yeah, so I guess that's a perfect transition into this next thing. Wanted to introduce Simon. This is Simon Morris. He's the new CEO of Nine Realms. He's been at Nine Realms for a couple months now, and I think now's the right time to just give him an introduction to the community. So I'll let him up here. I have a couple questions for him, but of course, if there's people that want to say hi or ask a question to Simon, just feel free to request, and we'll get you up at some point. But yeah, take it away.
Hey, Tyler, what up? It's great to be here. So how are we going to do this? Maybe just a couple of introductory remarks. Hi, I'm Simon. I am like hugely excited to be taking over at Nine Realms, and I am, honestly humbled to be like in front of the THORChain ecosystem for the first time and kind of offer what support I can, and obviously Nine Realms support. And this is an important project. This is why I'm here. Excited to be here. Just happy to share parts about my background or whatnot. Any questions. This is obviously kind of a new thing for me, so this will take a minute before I have the depth of knowledge that Orion or Tyler have, or others in the Nine Realms team. But really excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's like, I think people just want to know a little bit more just about like some of your background and things that you're like. What brought you to THORChain? Like, there's a ton of things that I think that we could go into. So like maybe we'll just start with like where you came from and what you did before.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so look, I'm a Brit, so I have but I've lived half my life in the US, so I have a slightly confused accent, so I apologize for that in advance. My kids are Americans, and my wife is an American, and but in my heart, I'm a Brit, and I will have confusing pronunciations. But I've lived in the US for a long time. I have been in technology for basically that entire time. By background, it's sort of worth going back, I think, to almost the beginning, because you can sort of understand and pigeonhole me a little bit better. I basically I was an undergrad, went to kind of school in the UK to originally do physics and math, but kind of got distracted from that very early on by more idealistic pursuits and got involved in doing political philosophy. And then I did a master's degree in international development economics. And then after that, I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to become a management consultant for my sins. But as part of that journey, I learned quite a lot about transactions in banks in particular. I spent a long time at Swift, which is an organization some of you may have heard of. It's like how the world's kind of banks kind of move money around the world. And like this was like over, like it's sort of almost 3 decades ago now. And like incredibly, that technology hasn't actually moved on that far in the last 3 decades. It's one of the, I think, sort of motivating reasons why Satoshi was interested in figuring out a better way of doing things. But so I sort of had a very, very early insight into how that world works. After that, I came to business school in the US. I'm not an engineer by background, but I spent a great deal of time with engineers in my career. After that, I got involved in the startup scene in Silicon Valley, and there was a sort of unfortunate dot-com crash in the early 2000s. I came and did some work for a company called VeriSign that did managed PKI, and so really understood something about cryptography at a pretty, in the early 2000s. Worked for a company after that did basically how the internet is going to get transformed onto smartphones. So really at the dawn of the smartphone revolution, before the first iPhone even came out. But I got pulled from that into a little company called BitTorrent that was setting up and running a decentralized CDN. And I thought the decentralized CDN was a pretty cool idea. It seemed to me that, this is gonna work and really be a disruptive influence. And this really kind of got me excited about the disruptive effect of technology. And so I ended up spending all in almost a decade at BitTorrent, and for various reasons, I ended up kind of doing a whole bunch of things there. I ultimately ran most of that company, and we sold it into the crypto space in around about 2007, 2008. And so, and then I guess in the aftermath of that, I kind of sort of went from there to, I spent a brief time with Facebook's Libra initiative that turned into DM. But for the last 5 years, I've been at a company called Consensus, which many of you may have heard of, or if not, you've certainly heard of MetaMask. MetaMask is the biggest product of Consensus and really getting into the heart of the Ethereum space. And I was the chief strategy officer of Consensus for the last 5 years. Anyway, that's a long diatribe about my history. I got sucked deeper and deeper into the decentralization space. I wrote some articles at the end of my BitTorrent time about why BitTorrent matters. Like, I think it was titled BitTorrent Lessons for Crypto. And by all means, if you're interested in kind of deep history from about 6 or 7 years ago, that was my opinion at the time. It still largely shapes my opinion now. But got really interested in what is this decentralization thing doing, and why does it matter, and how do we actually use it as a power for good in the world to disrupt things that have gotten us stuck. So anyway, I'll pause there.
Yeah, that's awesome. If people have questions about any of these specific things, like again, feel free to come up. This is a open Q&A, just kind of just an introduction to Simon, to the community, because like you're new to THORChain, right? Like, I mean, maybe we can go into some of the background there, but
yeah, let's
like,
do that.
it's your first time, like, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd heard of THORChain. Like THORChain came across my radar probably in its fairly early days when it came out. That was really in the early days of trying to understand this kind of proliferation of different chains out there and how are they going to connect together. And THORChain was, I think, one of the very early proof points that, yeah, you can connect these different chains together. I kind of parked that under kind of, in some place in my memory, but didn't really think too hard about it or look too hard into it. I was kind of heavily pulled into the Ethereum ecosystem, and then deeply involved in kind of the emergence of different L2s in Ethereum. Inside Consensus, so Consensus was actually launching its own ZK EVM L2, if that means much to folks here, and it's called Linear. And so the Linear team kind of reported into me on the exec team at Consensus. And so I got a pretty close understanding of what it looks like to launch a network like Linear. I was really inspired by Nine Realms, honestly, for a couple of reasons. Like the first one is that it seemed to me that like Consensus has got its, it's a very broad company. It's almost 1,000 people and doing all sorts of really interesting things, from deep R&D into future scalability and directions of the Ethereum protocol, and all the way out to like running the infrastructure, building, launching an L2 implementation itself, and then all the way up to kind of managing the user interface to millions and millions of users through MetaMask. And how do you do that in a safe way and enable tons of apps to be successful at the same time? So with that in mind, I didn't really want to do something that could be sort of alienating to many friends at Consensus by going out and doing something that seemed like it was competing with Consensus. So that kind of ruled out quite a lot of things, and I really appreciated what Nine Realms, or in particular THORChain, was doing in like this vision of sort of allowing liquidity in a like native liquidity to flow between these different ecosystems. And if you step back a really long way, you can easily think of, look, the where's all of the liquidity? The liquidity is all in Bitcoin. And it's not all in Bitcoin, but an awful lot of the liquidity is in Bitcoin, a lot of the values in Bitcoin. Where are all of the devs and the users? Well, a lot of them are not in Bitcoin. A lot of them are in either Ethereum or Solana. And then there's other networks that are up and coming that are also kind of exciting. So how do you enable the value to find the developers and the users? And so I really liked the positioning of what THORChain is doing. And that seemed like a really good sort of fit for me, and also a way to keep a lot of really kind of good sort of friendships at Consensus intact. And then I guess the second thing that really convinced me about Nine Realms and THORChain in particular is like there's actually a real ecosystem here. And I've been around enough, like, so BitTorrent had a real gigantic, incredible ecosystem that was absolutely unruly, absolutely, marched to its own beat. And it was different, very different from the company. But just the existence of that ecosystem was incredibly important in creating kind of continuity in the future. And there's something very special that's going on in THORChain. And I watched the kind of really unfortunate events in the last couple of months, kind of in the THORChain community and the ecosystem. And I was, one thing stuck with me as I was watching this, and that's the fact that people kept turning up. People kept showing up, and through really difficult times, and just like figuring out, like really trying to figure out, how are we going to make this work? What is the right way? Like there's a level of principled kind of engagement with the problems that typically a lot of the ecosystems that you see emerging elsewhere don't have the maturity, don't have the just the sort of the depth of commitment to be able to sustain. So I'd contrast that with, like I said, I've seen a lot of L2s taking off on Ethereum. A lot of the communities and ecosystems that are there are pretty synthetic. Like all people do is they wave a couple of tokens at people, and people will run around and take their promises of tokens or points or whatnot. And then the minute the tokens are dropped, they vanish and they go to the next thing. And THORChain is far beyond this moment, and there's still a community here. And for me, that's a really positive sign that, yeah, things are going to be hard for a bit, but actually, I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. Especially there being some kind of real value here is like I think why a lot of developers really stick around and want to build in this space. It's what made me want to build in this space, and I think a lot of the other Nine Realms team and just the community devs, and that's why people keep showing up because they know there is like actual value that's being created here. So yeah, I mean, I think that just really speaks to what you're saying. Where yeah, a lot of other ecosystems and things like that. There's some shiny products, but it all kind of boils down to a couple of things, and swaps being one of the main just app use cases in crypto, and obviously like really being evidenced by like Uniswap and some of the really big things on Ethereum. But yeah, it's we love THORChain because it's just a little bit bigger than just Ethereum. It just kind of expands, especially into Bitcoin. Is really where you see a lot of interest come in, and why we have such a strong community and a developer community, and like a chain with actual revenues, like things you don't really see in other ecosystems, and there isn't a lot of opportunity to be part of this type of thing in many other places. It just doesn't really exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like swaps is such an important part of all of this. I remember, so I was part of the fundraising team in Consensus for a couple of years, and we raised a lot of money. We raised, I think, $750 million all in. And one of the sort of central threads through the case that we were making back then was around the importance of swaps, and in particular MetaMask's ability there to perform swaps for end users in a safe and kind of effective way. And the line that ran through it is this line that in many ways in crypto, the very act of acting is an act of swapping, right? The very act of acting is an act of swapping, and it's a really, that's what you express yourself through the exchange of value. That is, and there's a few other things, but not that much. Like I think the very core of what we're doing, the way that crypto becomes meaningful to us as human beings, is our ability to do something with it, which in many cases is swapping, right? And so it's very, very profound. And so I think that there's something incredibly important about a community or a technology like THORChain that takes that kind of insight and then establishes a system that can be decentralized, can be permissionless, that enables that type of swapping to happen from chain to chain, not just within a chain.
Yeah, I think even expanding on that, just delivering a real product too that other people and people find it useful. Businesses can monetize it. There's a lot of different ways to tap into it. Developers can build cool things on top of it. It's pretty composable in a lot of ways where it has something for everybody, and like the actual value comes from the product and like what's being offered, not just like a token or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think sometimes one of the things that is difficult in crypto is I think often there is a rush to add tons of different features or tons of different things. There's almost this impatience about like, well, we're not part of some central kind of team. We can do anything we like. We can go anywhere we like. And this leads to almost a sort of almost overly verbose sort of attempts to want to do everything all at once. And I think sometimes the right thing to do is just slow down and just look at the thing you do and do it really, really, really well. And so, I think there's huge depth in, and honestly profoundness in kind of the use cases that THORChain does enable. I think that's really exciting, and there's obvious evidence of product market fit that kind of people want this, and I'm I'm very open to a discussion about kind of like where THORChain kind of goes next, but I don't want to lose sight of the importance of what we've got. And so really trying to tune into that and kind of hold that as the most important thing, I think, is one of the things that I'm hoping to convince collaborators of the importance of, like, going forward.
Awesome. And how do you see? So, what's your like vision as for like how Nine Realms can not interacts with THORChain and like how it has in the past and how it's going to continue to evolve. Do you like see that changing in any way, or maybe you could just give an explanation of like how Nine Realms today interacts with THORChain and if that changes in the future?
Sure. So look, I mean, Nine Realms is here to help, right? At the end of the day, it's the technical end of the community that is going to continue to make THORChain successful. And Nine Realms, in many ways, is a sort of magnifying glass that helps to focus those efforts on a path forward. I think it's very, very important that the ecosystem continues to feel empowered, that the tech, the especially at the technical end, that there is a through path from kind of, initial crazy idea all the way through to, you know, how does this coalesce into an intent for the future of THORChain, and then how does the roadmap kind of get pulled together? And Nine Realms simply sits there as trying to be that magnifying glass. Nine Realms is not there to tell THORChain what to do. Nine Realms isn't there to manage THORChain, but Nine Realms is hopefully a Schelling point where kind of people can come together and we can make sure that things happen in a sort of, in an orderly way, and make sure, because like the safety of funds is very, very important. The predictability of kind of functionality and like consistency of operations is very, very important. I have a couple of things that I would love to kind of work more with the community on around kind of governance, and how do we introduce more maybe structure and transparency into how certain decisions get structured and then implemented. I think the community would benefit a great deal from that. But again, this is like, we exist we're here to serve, we're here to help any way we can. And, you know, I, I think we'll continue to make suggestions about kind of how things could happen in our view better, but then, it's open season for the rest of the community to do that as well. And we will absolutely show up and participate in those discussions.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear. And yeah, definitely share your vision with just how Nine Realms interacts with the protocol. I think it's important to have, this kind of group of people who, are really knowledgeable about like how things work, but, also willing to organize with others. And, it is a decentralized protocol, but we still need some kind of structures around things to, still maintain our own vision and, move the protocol in a way with that aligns with the consensus of the network itself. But yeah, I just think it's important to have some of these structures in place, because otherwise there's a little bit too much chaos, which is not what a mature network like THORChain is trying to be really needs. So it is very important to have that kind of structure underlying, especially in the governance, which I think definitely shows some room for improvement. And but especially with the coordination of all these different teams, because kind of moving into the new phase here, there's been a lot of different players to show up from different angles, right? You have like the aggregators and the integrators. You have all the dev teams that are spun up around shipping new things on THORChain. You have independent contributors. There's a lot of different stakeholders in the ecosystem. So having some kind of group to just coordinate folks across all these different avenues is very useful to the ecosystem as a whole.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I mean, so there is huge value in the sort of, the barely managed chaos. I think there is a sort of opposite end of it where, like, obviously there's a slippery slope that you want to try and avoid about, like, let's just get everything into line and we'll get everyone to march in exactly the same direction and we'll go implement the plan. And that introduces a whole different set of challenges around accountability and governance. And is this even really decentralized anymore? And so, like, want to be very cognizant that that is not a hacky outcome. Like, it was very, very interesting. So, like I think I said, I was briefly involved in the Libra initiative at Facebook, and I've honestly never seen a collection of engineers and other professionals that was, in the technology space, more unbelievably awesome and kick-ass. Like it was really incredible to behold the not just the caliber of people who were involved and the number of them, but also the way it was organized, like this incredible sort of execution machine. And I think in hindsight, and hindsight's wonderful, right? But in hindsight, it's hardly surprising that that thing failed, because it ultimately it would have failed any sort of test out there of kind of answering a question of, well, who controls this DM thing? And the answer is Zuck controls it. And even though they had all of these kind of big ideas about, oh, well, it's going to be decentralized and we'll have Visa and MasterCard and Uber and all these, like, tons and tons of people involved in this kind of association, like, in spite of their best intentions to construct that, the obvious answer to who's in charge of it was Zuck. And that was absolutely flat out not okay for kind of regulators, and it encouraged them to just kill it with fire. There was literally nothing that Facebook could do to convince the world that Zuck wasn't going to be in charge of this thing that wanted to be the reserve currency for the world. And so, there was this incredible kind of, sort of immune reaction that just absolutely took it down, which was, interesting. Like, I think it's an object lesson in, like, don't, like, if you assemble the dream team to go and do exactly the thing and, pretend or even sincerely want it to be decentralized, it's really hard to get there if you have that kind of incredible force of kind of organization as the starting point to get to a decentralized ecosystem, because you're never going to escape it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the gravity just kind of sucks you in at that point, and the ecosystem is stronger because we don't have that kind of central force of like the central directive. Like we don't know who node operators are. They vote in their own way. Devs propose things to the node operators. Just the way that the network is structured, it's structured in a way that optimizes for decentralization. Obviously, like this THORChain being the largest instance of threshold signatures and the largest rotating threshold signatures vault in production for many years now, just really speaks to that ethos, and why it's so important that Nine Realms is here as a participant and as a guiding force, but not as a function force or a function forcer, or an organization that says like the chain needs to do this and the validators need to do that. We're stewards of the protocol, and we'll suggest governance and things, but we won't force things to occur. We still play by the rules of the network.
Yeah, quite right. And I guess it's probably also like, so I'll offer a personal opinion, and this is like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I personally think that we are wise to be pragmatic about where we're at on this journey, and we don't have a ton to gain from kind of, believing things about how incredibly decentralized we would like to be, about believing that those are already the case. And decentralization is both a spectrum and a journey. And I think we've made incredible progress, and I think there's more progress to make. But the reality is, THORChain is not as decentralized as Bitcoin yet. It just isn't. And so we have a journey to go on there, and there's huge value in continuing on that journey. It's also very clear that it's not totally centralized, although I think some people out there would like to make the case that it is. I haven't seen the inside of it now. I'm absolutely satisfied that it's not. But there is a journey to go on here. And, I think we just need to be very kind of, pragmatic about where we're at today. And, let's not pretend that we're something that we're actually not yet, because I think that could invite a type of, uh, like it could invite a type of hostility that we would be probably not super helpful for us to have to to deal with. But still, I think there's a level of decentralization that is pretty admirable, and there's a direction of travel that is pretty clear. And it's an exciting time to be in this sort of project. Like I said, it's an authentic kind of community. It's got a direction, and I think it's actually performing an incredibly valuable service for the world.
Yeah, so just as for the network itself, I know you talked a little bit about like the evolution of the decentralization of the network. Like, are there other areas that you're thinking about with THORChain besides just decentralization? Like, I'm just curious, like, where your head's at in terms of like, what this network looks like, a couple months from now, a couple years from now, if there's like, certain things that you're thinking of, just like, strategy wise, or things that you wanted to do, or just more of a, take a step back and let the nodes govern, or are there like certain things that that you're looking to do or think about or explore?
Look, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward, and certainly probably the next year, I dare say. Like, there's been a lot of drama in the ecosystem that we have dealt with, and it's simply allowing ourselves to get through that, deliver TCY, sort that out. It's regrettable. Whatever, the past is the past. I was never involved in it. It is what it is at this point. So let's look forward. And I think honestly, we have a really good chance of fixing it. It's definitely not, this would not be the first time that some type of fix like this has happened in the crypto space. And so I think we've got every reason to believe it's going to be very successful. But I do think it's going to be important to just be kind of very steady, and remove drama, do what we say we're going to do. And I know it sounds boring, but it's the reality of just obsessively focusing again on what we do really well. I think beyond that, obviously expanding out to other networks, like becoming a product that is fit for purpose for anybody out there who wants to be able to swap assets in a non-custodial way. I would observe that there is plenty of evidence out there that all of the players in the space, whether they are centralized exchanges or institutions or even just retails, are very, very interested in this idea of non-custodial swapping of digital assets. Every centralized exchange in the world is going to, I mean, look at what Coinbase is doing with Base and kind of Coinbase Wallet, and their declaration that they're going to put their entire kind of exchange on chain. I mean, and every other exchange around the world is watching that very carefully, and they probably don't have the capacity that Coinbase has to really make that work at scale. And I think THORChain it's literally the obvious path to enable them to pursue their strategy, while kind of THORChain can actually truly succeed. And in order to do that, I think we've got to prove that THORChain's okay. It's going to be just fine. Like, there's nothing to see here. There's really good, solid kind of new chains being added on. The app layer is absolutely fantastic. That's exactly how we should be extending the technology, in my opinion. And so that can add a huge amount of extra volume to on top of THORChain. And so really just kind of proceeding down that line, and just reducing the kind of the volatility level inside the community.
Yeah, 100% right with you there. Do we want to go into just Nine Realms, like, as like, because maybe some people aren't even familiar with like what Nine Realms is, or what we do, like what services we provide. So like, maybe you want to go into that.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great prompt. So look, Nine Realms, as a company, we've actually just republished our website. So please do take a look at the ninerealms.com website. We also put on there, like, we had a really interesting session with the team, trying to kind of figure out, when we're representing opinions in public spaces with the THORChain ecosystem, what are our principles? What are our values as a team? because I think one of the things that we have, we could have done a better job in the past of is putting, engineers directly, to sort of stand for themselves and like have to represent their own personal values. And so instead, I would like 9Realms to stand for some things. And so what we did is we worked through some defining principles for 9Realms. You'll find on our website now. I think that is what we're going to try and stand for as a team. 9Realms does three things. 9Realms supports the THORChain protocol, and in return for that, we get paid a stipend from the THORChain treasury. And that really is involved in both contributing towards the release process, managing a bunch of THORChain infrastructure, but it's really kind of protocol support, if you like. The second thing we do is we run nodes, and we run nodes on THORChain, and we run nodes like if you have Rune that you would like to stake, please come and stake with us. There are many other kind of good node providers out there as well, but THORChain, but 9Realms also has essentially a bonding business or staking business for THORChain nodes, and so we kind of run that, and part of that is with proprietary kind of Rune, but the majority of it is with other customers kind of Rune, and we've been doing that for a number of years now. So we have like a great deal of experience in how do we kind of maximize returns for our customers there. And then the third thing we do is we have an integrations business where we try and find front ends around the world, be they wallets or dApps who want to integrate into THORChain, and we try and act as an integration partner to drive more demand into THORChain. So people like Ledger or Trust Wallet, and we often work very closely with the SwapKit team on this. And really, how do you increase the amount of volume going into THORChain from wherever it's going to come from? And so we scour the world looking for demand, and then making the case for why THORChain is an excellent choice for enabling these non-custodial native asset swaps.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great description of everything that we do. There's a brand new 9realms.com website. And yeah, there's all the information you might need to know, contact, like in case, you ever wanted to get in touch with 9Realms to bond or, look at any of the opportunities we have available. Cause we're actually I guess Simon should probably say this, but 9Realms is hiring for a couple of roles.
We are hiring.
Yep. Yeah, so if you're really interested in THORChain and this ecosystem and building in the cross-chain space, if you're a dev, if you're, if you have your own talents, definitely contact 9Realms because this is what we do. We've been doing it for a long time, and just continue to provide excellence to the THORChain ecosystem. And we're just looking to expand the team for a couple different roles that are open, and they're all on the website.
All right, so Tyler, did you want to do questions here, or?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see anyone that requested. I'm sure people might have questions for Simon, just to learn more about Simon, about 9Realms. Like maybe there's just some general things that people want to know, like your stances on any number of things, or just learning more about some of the things you used to work on. So if you want to request to come up, I don't see anything right now. So you can talk about whatever you want until people request to come up.
Answered all the questions up front. Easy. That's great. So are people excited about the app layer? What are people's favorite apps that are coming?
People are very excited about the app layer. I'm very excited for lending, like having some kind of lending product on THORChain, especially getting this on Ruji. The devs are just the Ruji devs are just so talented. I know Hans was here before, and he's still here. These guys are absolute rock stars. So I think getting a lending product out there is just going to be that's going to be amazing, because there really isn't that many good lending products out there. They all use wrapped assets, and I think we could do it better on THORChain. I think there's just so much surface area for building cool things on this chain, just because it's so composable. Just in terms of like what you can work with, especially with Bitcoin. It's an app chain for Bitcoin is what THORChain is, and it's a it's a system for custody and an app chain. It's great.
I mean, I absolutely love the positioning of like, yeah, you just send a transaction from wherever you're at, and that transaction can result in like interacting with this entire kind of app layer in any way you want to. And it's and you're still native, from your perspective, you're still native on whichever asset that you came from in the first place. So if you don't even have to, like, it's almost not, it's almost like you're not moving assets onto Rugera. It's almost like, no, your assets are still Bitcoin assets controlled from your Bitcoin wallet, and you start and stop them from Bitcoin. And I think it's a positioning that we're going to have to work on. How do we communicate that to people? Because that's an incredibly powerful primitive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could think of THORChain here as just as a decentralized custodian, and I think that's really where there's a lot of power that comes into it. Because like you're talking about centralized exchanges and how every single centralized exchange has said publicly that they want to go 100% on chain. Well, like doing the actual trading is the easy part. Doing the decentralized custody, that's the part that THORChain has already solved. So I think that's just it's such a hugely important angle that none of them really have an answer for, and we've been doing that in production for many years now, and have like real apps built on top of it, and now there will be a much larger ecosystem of apps to pick from.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
I have someone that's coming up, Professor McCarthy, but looks like you're connecting still.
Let's do it.
I don't know if it's working or not. It's just spinning around in a circle.
Being censored. That's no good.
That's Twitter for you.
Yeah. Our Twitter overlords are not cooperating today.
No, it didn't work.
Okay. So let's see. What else? Next chain is coming out.
Yeah, so next chain's XRP, and then obviously Sol is still being worked on. But for a second here, here's THORSwap.
Cool.
Hey everyone, this is Paper. Hopping on the THORSwap account. It's really early for me, so I gotta hop up soon. But yeah, I just wanted to extend obviously a really warm welcome to Simon. Great to have you join the ecosystem. We have a really passionate community, as you are probably aware. So yeah, but yeah, lots of different teams, but I think we all have a shared vision. So yeah, really glad to have you with the community.
Hey, Faber, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Nine Realms works very closely with THORSwap and the SwapKit team. Work together in integrations and just any kind of technical support that they need. So yeah, I love supporting THORSwap. Great front end. So really appreciate your guys' team. And we also brought up Alux too.
Hey, yeah, no questions, no comments. Just Simon, welcome. It's been great talking to you, and I'm very excited for what's coming. Me and my team are at your disposal, and I know we've been at a couple engineering calls already, but I'm just excited by the steady answer. So let's go.
Hey, Alex, I really appreciate it. And I should echo what Chad said earlier. Like, honestly, this community owes you and the Maya team a huge debt of gratitude for the work that you've done on helping us with the THORFi unwind. So thank you.
It's our pleasure, and we owe it back. We owe it back to THORChain. So nothing to thank us for. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alex.
Cool. And we finally got a Professor McCarthy here. Hey, you have a question?
Hey, GM.
Hey, GM.
How you guys doing?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm the tokenomics workstream leader over at Shapeshift, and so just wanted to come and shout out and thank all of the work you guys are doing and that you have done in terms of building in the back end for us front ends. And yeah, we're just excited to see what comes next in the app layer and the different chains that are rolling out, and connecting that across chain. with all the rest of the platform at Shapeshift and figuring out the next steps for the Fox token and the whole kind of ecosystem. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to come up and just say hi and just, show some love and appreciate you guys and, say thanks.
Very cool. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. And obviously, it's been like our privilege to have the Shapeshift team on the journey with us all these years. So thank you.
Our pleasure.
100%. Thanks for coming up. So yeah, Simon, any closing thoughts? We can wrap it up real soon here.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Hey, so look, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate the welcome I'm getting. I am, I'm really excited about this thing. It's a weird time to be kind of joining with kind of getting through some drama, but there's something really special here. There's something really, really important here. And, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be along for the ride. And, any way I can help, like, where I am, please kind of reach out to me if you need to check in on anything. I've spoken to a number of you already one-on-one, but, always happy to engage.
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is the perfect time to be like coming in because this is kind of a new chapter we'll be entering into, and I think just shedding some of the past things that have gone on and coming at it with a new set of eyes and a different perspective, I think is really wholly welcomed by everybody. So I think that it is definitely a weird time to be coming on, but also probably not a better time to be joining as well. So. It's
Yeah,
definitely
totally. And you know what?
perfect.
Like the cool thing is the technology doesn't care about the drama. The technology is just technology, and it's like it's going to be fine. And it's the community here it's the ecosystem here that's going to carry this through. So certainly that's my experience from prior decentralized ecosystems I've been involved with. I see all of the same pieces are in place here, and I and Nine Realms are absolutely committed to be there on the journey.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap it up then. These always get uploaded to our RSS feed. You can down if you can't catch these live, they're always on Spotify. They're on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and any app that you get your podcasts on. Just search for THORChain Weekly Live, and it's on there, or just get it from the RSS feed directly. And yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll hopefully get Simon on a couple more of these, and whenever it feels necessary. So looking forward to getting TCY out and getting V3.5 out. Ruji first tokens, XRP. Looking good.
Looking great. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank
See
you
guys.
all. Let's go. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.